that dude who made the slime character. I don't think he's been here in like 2 or 3 sessions. I want to reach out to him because I want to see how that slime knight character actually ended up looking. If you guys can find him in the Discord, tell him to come next week. I want to see how things have been going with that. I'll share out something cool in the chat for you guys just to kind of close this out today. I know y'all want to get on with your days, but this is pretty neat. So I just finished up a presentation that I sent off just yesterday. How to explain this? So within the design world, a perfect day for me is I'm doing 3D, I'm doing some kind of modeling, and then I get to switch over and I get to do like animation, motion graphics, something a little bit more 2D within my work structure. And then in the evenings, if I can go in and do some kind of art direction, branding, graphic design, consulting work, then that really kind of rounds out my entire day creatively because I get to use my 3 sort of spheres of what it is that I can do. And yesterday, in addition to working with 3D, I was developing a logo for a podcast company that is a faith-based religious podcast that is centered on sports and talking all things sports. So the concept is that they bring these athletes, these professional athletes or college athletes on there, and they talk about not only sports in general, but what religion, whatever religion they happen to be, has meant within their lives. I think it's a cool concept. I think there's a lot of neat places and correlations between something spiritual and, the activity of sports, because sports are definitely an art form in the same way as what it is that we're doing too. There's a lot more related to those two than you might think. Anywho, so I'm going to share out the package that I sent this podcast company. It's in the chat now if you guys want to open it up and have a look. And what this is, it comes over to them as a PDF. They've given me some initial art direction. And then from there, I get to go through and develop out their logo. When I'm giving a logo, the correlation between this and character design it's there. There is a cross-pollination of the ideas in the format in which I'm selling this idea to the client. That's why I'm showing this to you guys. There is a reason, even though it's not a 3D character. But what I'm going through and doing, right? These guys came in with an idea for what they wanted their logo to look like already. And that is not a good thing, right? They hired me to be the designer and to make this thing for them. And they're like, well, we want this logo. We just want you to clean it up and make it perfect. And within the design world, whenever you hear a client start to say, oh, we just want you to clean it up and make it perfect, usually you are in for a very rocky road because none of this is parenthetical feedback. It's abstraction. What is perfect to them? What is the logo being cleaned up? What areas of the logo do they think are weak? There's a conversation that you need to be able to have here with the client. And this doesn't just go for branding or logo design or web design. This also happens within 3D. A lot of times be wary when your creative director comes back and says, oh, we just need this character cleaned up. And then they're busy and they're going to go throughout the rest of their day. And then you're going to sit there for the next 4 hours and say, well, I already cleaned up this character. It's already low poly. What do they mean they want me to clean it up? And so being able to stop the client, in this case, your creative director, on the character that you need to clean up and ask them to be more specific is a really, really important thing. So when it comes to this, my process and this process that you're going to see in this short book here is the same, whether I'm doing a 3D character, whether I'm doing a logo, whatever it is that I'm looking at. And I hope that some of this, even though it's for a logo design, The same process would apply to me doing a 3D character for a gaming company. My first step is they say, okay, we need a logo. Here's what our concept is. We need a knight. We need a fairy. Then I'm going to go out and I'm going to go to the internet and I'm going to spend an hour and a half looking up every fairy, every knight that I can to be able to get different ideas out there for how other artists and designers have solved for the idea of what a fairy or a knight should look like. And in this case, it happened to be a sports podcast as well as a Christian or ministry podcast. So I started looking at what their general branding looks like. What do their colors look like? What kind of font choices are they using overall? How is the text stacked up and laid out? And, I got my results. And then I wrote out sort of some of the other research that I did that people had written about for what makes a good podcast logo or icon, and did just a quick little one-page write-up. This is, probably 3 to 5 hours worth of research that I'm distilling down when I pass it off to the client into just the key points, because I don't want to waste anyone's time. The second part for this as well is that I'm really going through and I'm setting up the conversation to help them understand why I'm doing the things that I'm doing and why I'm going about and doing this. Trying to give them, here's what the rest of the internet has. Here's what other people are doing. If we want to exist within this space, we should probably do something closer to this. Next up is when you're dealing with an art director, a boss, a client, keep track of any emails, save them out in a Word document inside of the folder for your character. This is one of the best habits you can get into as a creative, because a lot of times these creative cycles, they will bring up a character that you created a year ago, sometimes a year and a half, 2 years. And suddenly, like, oh, we just got an ask, we want to update this guy. We want to, give him a new look, or, HR, human resources, our lawyers came back and said he cannot wear the Mickey Mouse hat. And being able to repeat back to them, or at least show them within an email or within the design presentation that you're creating, these are the instructions that you gave me. Here is why we are moving forward in the direction that we are moving, because this is specifically what it is that you said in that moment, those 30 seconds when you were busy on a Friday and told me to push the release for that thing that would crash every Windows system within the entire world. It wasn't me. It was you. So over here on the right-hand side, this is the logo. I'm not sharing my screen, am I? We're just... All right. Sorry, we'll get back into it. So now you guys can actually see what I'm working on.
Yes.
Yeah, over here on the right-hand side, this is the logo that they gave me initially. And it says, God love sports. And then there's a little lightning bolt there. It's supposed to say, God loves sports. For me, the readability on this logo is really, really suffering, because it's almost like a crossword puzzle where it's difficult to be able to read it. If I've never seen this brand before, it is not as clean as saying got milk. There's no way to confuse that. It's challenging. There's other issues with this first logo, because the lockup and the way that it works with imagery, or if we do not have a vertical space within it, whatever it is that we're showing, and it has to be horizontal, like at the top of a website, it's going to create a lot of friction, and it doesn't work outside of this particular lockup. That's where all the cleverness is at. So it doesn't have modularity to it, which is a problem. But they love this logo. One of them who did not go to school for this stuff, who's not been studying this stuff for years, created this thing and like, that's it. That's what we want, man. So also it is so innately Christian with the cross that they're displaying here, that it gets away from their original idea that the concept is not very religious. It just allows for athletes of all types to talk anything and everything inside and outside of sports, including all religions. That was their idea. That was the initial pitch that I got. And then they have pigeonholed themselves with Christian iconography within their logo. It just doesn't work. So after we look through this, then I start presenting the logo. So this is my best version, my make it perfect version of God loves sports, right? So I've separated out the word love a little bit, given the S a little bit more of an S look to it, and condensed the spacing so that the V becomes the separation between the two. So it reads a little bit more cleanly when we're seeing it for the first time. Within this is a great thing as well to bring it back to how you present your work. And when you're showing your work to your client, if that's your art director or your boss, you get one chance to be able to present all these hours of work that you've created to them. And giving professional presentations and handoff really does a lot to be able to help frame the discussion. So a lot of times your boss will take the character concept that you've just 3D modeled and produced, and then bring it over to their committee, their other people. And they're going to use the file that you give them. So if you send them just a screen grab of your particular character inside of ZBrush, then they're going to take that screen grab and they're going to send it up the river to the people who are paying the money to get that game created. But if you take a couple seconds here and along the way, you're taking screenshots and saving out images, strong hero images of your character that look heroic, that show the character in its best light, then it becomes a lot harder to be able to argue against this. One of the other key things within this stage of passing on your ideas within a company or to a client is this little tiny logo notes down here at the bottom right. So everything else on here is showing it clean with a flat color and then what it looks like with photography. The only bit of writing is my one chance as a designer to be able to frame the narrative around this logo. And the things I'm saying inside of those logo notes there are not positive things about this logo. I'm basically writing a warning and saying, this has got some issues, all right? This does not read well. There's going to be problems. And that's all I'm going to say about it. I'm going to let them come to the answer and come to the conclusion. And a lot of times this will happen as well, where your art director and your boss will give you something that came from somewhere that you already know it's not going to work, but it's your job to make their ideas come to life and you'll end up creating it. And this is a very professional way to be able to give pushback and feedback without coming across as a negative Nancy, someone who's always, oh, well, that's not going to work right away. I've got a programmer within my VR team who has become that guy on the team where his first thought is, well, here's how this isn't going to work. And it really stagnates the conversation and hurts forward momentum instead of, okay, if we want to do this, we can. Here's what the solutions look like. But, it is going to be a bit of a time suck. After that, the next thing that I like to do, and this is important for you guys as well, if you get the opportunity with any kind of character design, environment design stuff that you're creating, is showing it actually in use, right? So flat is cool with the photography is cool, but actually for non-creative people, if you're ever getting input or feedback from them, they have a very hard time imagining where this final product is going to end up at. So you might have been looking at the 3D character that you're designing. Let's say it's for a game like Street Fighter for the past 6 months. And when you finally get your first renders that you're going to share and that are going to be the official kind of looks for this guy, when they pass it up the line, if you drop that character into one of the actual levels within Street Fighter and put it within a television and put a controller in there, then the people who actually are paying the money to get this game made will say, oh yeah, that character looks like he belongs in Street Fighter because you've dropped the character within one of the levels instead of just having a black background behind it. I hope that makes sense to you guys. So there's the mock-ups. That's why I do those within these presentations. Now, this is the logo that I like a heck of a lot better. This is my favorite one out of the batch. I think that it has all the elements that they're looking for from the initial brief. There's a lot of clever things that are happening with this. The letter shapes themselves are very similar to college t-shirts like college letter iconographies. If you went to Oxford or Yale or something like that, or Harvard, you'd buy a t-shirt that has the college letters that say Harvard. And these letters are similar to that. So it references sort of the college sports in a very, very subtle way. I also like that this logo on the right-hand side has got stairs stepping going up the side, talking to the athletic journey or the religious journey of moving towards something that is higher. The lightning bolt is still present. It gives a good sense of action and forward momentum throughout the logo itself. And it's just sharp. It looks good. It'll work great for them if they decide to use it. There's no readability issues. And you can see over here on the right-hand side how well it just looks with any type of imagery that you're going to pair it with. It's going to work great for them if I can convince them to go with this one. This is one that's like on par with like a North Face logo or something. So here's the logo actually mocked up. And again, in print, it's a podcast. So we got the microphone there. Here's what it would look like on a t-shirt. Looks pretty slick. I'd buy that t-shirt. From here, here's the third logo option. So between these logos, right, this one isn't as exciting. I'm doing something called sandwiching the idea. And the concept is that, yeah, here's the first one, right? So this is what the client wanted. They're going to like that. They're going to say, okay, yeah, he did it. But then they're going to go, oh, crap, what about this one? Ooh, man, that one's even better. So you give them what they're expecting. Then you give them the one you actually want them to pick. And then you give them one other thing that is sort of out of left field that allows them to be able to look at the original concept that they thought they wanted in a completely different light, in a completely different vein. And most of the time, these two logos between this one and this one are both strong. They're both functional. I would be cool with them working with either of these, just not the first one. They can move forward with, but it's called sandwiching your idea. And when you're presenting multiple versions of a character or iterations to your art director or to whoever it is that's making the decisions, this sandwich approach really works very nicely to be able to get them to pick the one that you, as an educated professional designer, want them to actually choose and move forward with. This will help you get your idea in the game a lot more frequently than if you are just showing screen caps and just, not honoring your voice and your intelligence as a creative. So then again, we're showing this one off. It's completely off brand for them. Now that I know more of what their brand actually looks like, but yeah, again, showing it, just in use, and it looks pretty strong. Finally, at the end here, this. So these are all the other logo options that I developed along the way to be able to get to those final three. So this is saying, okay, guys, well, if you don't like any of those three that I presented, if for some reason they're not working, here is a completely overwhelming bucket of other options to be able to choose from. This looks like a ton of logos that I've made for them, but in fact, on the left-hand side here, it's the exact same logos as the ones that are on the right. The ones on the right are just the exact same logo with some kind of visual picture treatment to it, right? So we can see this one right here is the exact same one as this one over here, but it looks completely overwhelming. It looks like I've done a ton of work, and they are going to have no trouble, writing the paycheck for what this particular logo costs to be able to develop. Finally, within this, whenever I'm delivering an email or working with a client or working with a boss, is I like to define within this first conversation what the next steps are going to look like for me so that they know where I'm going next. So even if it's a complete sign off on a character, okay, well, I've got him done. The Street Fighter character is finished. Here's what I'm going to be working on in the intermittum. And at that point, it makes your boss absolutely love you because he knows where you're heading to next. You are self-managing yourself. And this really allows you to be able to stay off your boss's radar, to stay in your boss's good graces, and to be able to have autonomy to think creatively as your own person and your own individual within the creative world. So for these guys, I'm telling them what I need back from them. All right. I need for you to tell me, and this happens all the time too, right? If you have a weak art director or creative director, they might come back and they'll say again, oh, well, it doesn't quite feel perfect. You know, we really wanted this to be, you know, really clean, and it could look more clean. Then that's where this last page comes in and says, you know, if there's any adjustments that you would like for me to make to this one logo that you're going to be choosing to move forward with, please let me know. And that way we can get more specific about the conversation, because I hate endless revision cycles. As a designer that's worked in multiple fields, you run into this everywhere, whether it's video games, 3D modeling, a logo design. The client, when they start to change their idea on a whim like this, it really takes away your autonomy as a free thinker and as a professional creative to be able to do your job right. And it can really burn you out very quickly. So within the structure of the contract for this logo, I have the initial price that I'm going to be charging them. And then after 3 rounds of revisions, so this is the first round, they've got a second round, and then hopefully there's one more if they need it. They shouldn't. But then it's final delivery on the files and file transfer, job done, get out of here. If they need anything more than those 2 revision sections, then I start to charge them a full day studio price. And everyone's price is going to be different, but I charge them a full day's worth of labor to make any types of changes to these products. This is something that you're going to see the future YouTube channel that I shared out within the chat talk about a lot. And this can really help you to be able to protect your autonomy and your mind as an artist, so that it also creates a negative consequence for the client. If they can just spin their wheels forever with you, they will do it. and this helps to close out some of these jobs a little bit more cleanly than you might otherwise be able to do. All right, that's my presentation. I hope that was useful for you guys and gave you something to think about. I just got a word back. We're going to find out about this session next week. I'm going to go ahead and assume that we're going to have it. So please plan on joining. Same bat time, same bat channel. And God, I hope they don't have another meeting with the CDC at the exact same time that we're supposed to be doing these. But you guys got any feedback for me on everything that I just said? Any questions?
It was really, really helpful.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, a lot. Thank you.
Yeah, it's a lot to think about, but these are the Kung Fu moves. Now that you have the skills and you're these incredible 3D modelers that can do it and do everything, just know that these are some of the soft skills when it comes to working within companies or working for clients that will get you more money and will help you continue to rise wherever it is that you're going. All right. You guys have a great rest of your day or evening or morning, and I will see you next week.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.